They are demonic spirits that attach to individuals pretending to be helpful guides or voices of the dead to lead people astray. Remember, I did a teaching on this before, and I talk about, especially, they normally come to our kids who are innocent and literally begin to speak and manifest themselves to them through a doll or through an item. Or if you see your kids saying, "Mommy, see my friend right there." "What friend you talking about, Pookie?" "See him right there. That's Harry." Now, because most parents are ignorant to these spiritual understanding, you'll be like, "Yeah, I see Harry, baby. You need to come here, come here." But the kid sees what you don't see. Okay? Because of your spiritual ignorance, your child is interacting with an unseen force, but it's a negative force out to destroy your child. But the initial approach is to pretend as if it's the child friend. Once it would have forged that relationship, it now begins to impute or suggest or demand things of this child to do, and the child will do it. It eventually turns the child against you, the parent, and cause this child to behave in a way that will surprise you. You never taught this child this. Where does this child get this evil language from, and so on? It's all because of this lying demonic spirit that you cannot see. Origin of the name. Okay, familiar. Familiar comes from the Latin word familiaris, meaning household servant, implying they are intimately known or tied to a person or family, often knowing personal details to build trust. So, in essence, people who would have a familiar spirit attached to them, well, to be honest with you, just about everyone, but primarily you would have witches, warlocks, wizards, sorcerers, witchcraft workers, and so on. They cannot be a part of those things, or false prophets, sorry. They cannot be a part of those things without that aid, which would be the household servant known as a familiar spirit, that guide. So for example, a false prophet who is aided by a familiar spirit, they do not deal with the supernatural from a sense of God is revealing stuff to them. It's actually a familiar spirit, and that familiar spirit that is attached to them by the divination that they operate with, they are now allowed to communicate with the familiar spirits of other people. So let's say people came to that church, all right? Well, whatever familiar spirit is attached to them, the familiar spirit that was given to this guy who's into sorcery, truth, false prophecy, and so on, that familiar spirit is able to communicate with the familiar spirit on this victim that they're about to prophesy to. Now, the way that these spirits operate, like you would have read, they deal with family lineage, family history. So the spirit from that victim will now say to the spirit operating with this man, "Hey, look here, they have a case of cancer in their family," or so on. I hear the Lord say, and sometimes you will see them pause. Now, why they're pausing? So if you go in the book, and we're going to go through all these scriptures of Isaiah 19, something around there, and it talks about familiar spirits and how they mutter and whisper. So this is why you will see the false prophet pause. He said, "I don't know. I hear the name like a K. Who is K? K, the name K." He's not playing games. It isn't that the familiar spirit isn't saying the name correctly, but the way that it's said. Some of you have had this before. You heard voices, or you heard something whisper your name or call your name. It's a familiar spirit. So this guy says, "Who? K, Kevin. Who's Kevin? Who's Kevin?" Now there may be 10 Kevins in there. So the familiar spirit now needs to retrieve more information from the familiar spirit of the victim. So they'll be like, "Okay, this Kevin, your father died, and your father died, and your father said it's going to be okay, and he said that thing he promised never to tell anyone." Now, all of this is just history that is being revealed from one spirit to the next. True divination is now being conveyed to the false prophet. So false prophet, witches, warlocks, so on, they would have this ability of communication in the dark side of the spiritual realm. This is called divination. This isn't true prophecy. All of this is history. Now, the thing about this is a little truth, all right, spread with much lies. Because now once they would have won your trust, that's what they're looking for. Now they can deceive you because, "Oh, yes, that's so true. Oh, that's me. Daddy said it's a secret we had together." whatever. And now they begin. So God is telling me right now that He want to do some things in your life. And see, because at this point they got you, I mean, hook, line, and sinker. So a familiar spirit is what aids a witch, a warlock, a wizard, as well as a false prophet. In and of itself, they have no power. The powers that a witch, a warlock, and a wizard have is strictly supported by demons. The way that they go to different levels, be it in whatever organization, they have no power to say, hey, let me do this and things move. No. The when they bring the sacrifices or whatever they do that is required by those spirits to elevate them, the elevation is that they are now given more demonic spirits to work for them. But in terms of power themselves, so if they say, yeah, you did this to me, watch what's going to happen to you. So they'll go do a spell, they'll do an incantation. What are they doing? To get these spirits to attack you. But the person themselves have no power. What the person is, they're affiliated with evil spirits that has been assigned to them through their sacrifices, through their commitment, through their rituals in order to affect other people. But they have no power. So this is why, again, I got to squeeze this in here. And people come to me and say, oh, they doing these things to me. I'm saying to myself, okay, you're telling me more about the witchcraft. You're telling me more about the voodoo and what they're doing to you. What about the power of God? What about the power that resides in you that the Bible says has raised Christ from the dead? What about that power? What about greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world? So when they hear witchcraft and voodoo and evil spirits, immediately they are gripped with fear and they're disabled spiritually and they succumb to that. And the evidence of that is everything that they speak about their circumstances, witchcraft, oh, what the witch do?